Lily Thompson had learned long ago that silence could be armor. In the glossy glass tower of Blackford Media, where voices echoed confidence and privilege, where the walls themselves seemed to hum with old money, Lily walked lightly, too aware of how even her footsteps felt out of place. She moved with a quiet grace that came from a childhood spent slipping between cracks, from a lifetime of making herself smaller, so the world wouldn't press her down harder. But here in this sprawling Manhattan office, being small didn't protect her. Not from the stares, not from the whispered comments, not from the sharp smiles of colleagues who insisted they were colorblind right before reminding her that she should be grateful to be here at all. Diversity hire, they said, behind her back. That girl from Harlem, someone murmured in the break room. A good face for our portfolio, the HR director once joked, not caring that Lily stood only a few steps away. Lily always pretended she didn't hear. She always kept typing. She had grown up believing that if she worked hard enough, she would eventually outrun the weight of expectations her neighborhood, her upbringing, the statistics stacked against girls who looked like her. Blackford had been her dream, a place where her words, her creativity, her grit could matter. But dreams in Manhattan were fragile things. That Tuesday morning, she stepped into the glass-walled conference room, hugging a laptop to her chest. Rain streaked the windows behind her, smearing the city's skyline into watercolor blurs. Her hands trembled, though she hid them under the table as the team filtered in sleek, confident professionals in tailored neutrals. Almost all white, almost all indifferent. Her manager, Victoria, didn't bother hiding her irritation when she walked in. "All right," Victoria said sharply, heels tapping as she took her seat. "Let's get this over with." The meeting began. Screens lit up. Coffee cups clinked. Lily reviewed her notes, ready to present the digital rollout strategy she had worked on past midnight. She knew her work was good, clean, thoughtful, creative. But confidence felt dangerous in a room like this. When it was her turn, she stood, took a breath, and began. She didn't even get 3 sentences in. "Stop." Victoria held up a manicured hand. "Lily, this is what you brought me." Lily blinked, throat tightening. "Yes. The data projections show this is sloppy." A few people exchanged glances. Victoria clicked to the next slide, then the next, her sighs growing louder. "Your details are all over the place. And the tone, not corporate enough." "I told you that last week." Lily swallowed hard. "I adjusted the tone based on your... And yet, it still feels unprofessional." Victoria continued, talking over her. "Frankly, I don't know if you're the right fit for this kind of workflow." Everyone watched. No one defended her. Lily stood frozen, absorbing the blows quietly like she always did. Slowly, carefully, with the steady control of someone who'd been taught from childhood that showing hurt could be dangerous. Victoria wasn't finished. "This isn't college, Lily, and this," she gestured at the screen, "isn't community theater. We need people who understand nuance, detail, accountability. You can't just," she waved dismissively, "throw something together and hope your charm will fill in the gaps." The pause before the word charm made Lily's stomach twist. She understood exactly what was being implied. Her cheeks burned, air thinned. The room tilted gently, then sharply. She tried to steady her breathing, but each breath felt like pulling glass into her lungs. Victoria leaned back in her chair. "If you can't perform at the level this company requires, we'll need to reevaluate your position." Lily wanted to respond, explain, defend, plead, protest. She wasn't sure which. But the words smudged, dissolving before they reached her lips. Her pulse pounded in her ears. The lights brightened unnaturally. Her vision blurred. Someone spoke her name, but everything sounded distant, muffled, like voices drifting through water. Then the world slid sideways, and Lily fell. She woke to the antiseptic sharpness of a hospital room. Cold sheets, white walls, a soft beeping machine. Her body felt too heavy, her mind too light. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she saw the IV taped to her arm and knew she wasn't. A doctor stepped in, middle-aged, with gentle eyes, and a clipboard held like a shield. "Miss Thompson, you're awake." His voice was calm, practiced. "I'm Dr. Patel." Lily tried to sit up. Pain bloomed across her stomach, low and deep. "What happened?" "You fainted. Severe fatigue, dehydration, and—" His tone shifted. Softer. He pulled a chair beside her bed. "We ran tests. I'm afraid we found something unexpected." Lily's breath stalled. Unexpected. That single word carried the weight of a sentence. Dr. Patel continued cautiously. "You have an advanced form of gastric cancer. Stage 4. It's aggressive." Her heartbeat stuttered against her ribs. The doctor's mouth kept moving, but she didn't hear anything after cancer. It was as if the room drifted away from her, leaving her suspended in a cold, sinking isolation. "We estimate—" He hesitated. "Months, Miss Thompson. Not years." The beeping machine didn't pause. The world didn't pause. But Lily did. Her vision trembled. Her throat closed. Her heart cracked with a pressure that felt almost physical. "I'm only 27, she whispered. "I know." His voice was grief-soft but steady. "I'm truly sorry." Lily closed her eyes as tears burned through. Months. She had planned for promotions, for escaping her neighborhood, for paying off her mother's debts, for all the things she had promised herself as a child, staring at the peeling wallpaper of her tiny bedroom. She had dreamed of love someday, real love, the kind that felt warm and certain and possible. But not like this. Not ending here. Her mind flashed back to the meeting room, the long table. The uncomfortable stares, the dismissive tone, the subtle racism she'd swallowed daily, because she had believed she had time. Time to prove herself. Time to rise above it. Time to make something of her life. Now, time was the one thing she didn't have. Tears slipped down her temples, silent and uninvited. The doctor rested a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone, Lily. We'll make sure you have support." But Lily had never felt more alone. That night, after the doctor left, she stared at the ceiling until the shadows blurred together. The city lights glowed faintly through the drawn blinds. New York, the city she'd worked so hard to belong to, still pulsed outside without her. Her phone buzzed somewhere in the room, but she didn't reach for it. What did a few more messages matter when she had months left? Her thoughts churned, desperate, frightened, spiraling in circles she couldn't control. Everything she had endured suddenly felt pointless. Every wound from the office, every whispered insult, every unmet dream, they all pressed down on her chest with unbearable heaviness. She wasn't ready to die. She wasn't ready for anything. A tear rolled down her cheek as she whispered into the stillness, "I wanted more." The hospital room answered with silence. But beneath that silence, somewhere deep in her chest, something tiny flickered. Not hope, not yet. Something quieter. Something stubborn. A refusal, a whisper of not yet. She didn't know what it meant. She didn't know what came next. But she felt it all the same, and far away in a different part of the city, a man she barely knew. A man with ice-blue eyes and a heart he pretended not to have looked down at her name on a report from HR, frowning without knowing why. A thread was pulling them together. Neither of them could feel it yet, but soon they would, very soon. The next morning, Lily returned to her apartment, with the hospital bracelet still clinging to her wrist like a quiet accusation. She hadn't taken it off. A part of her wasn't ready. Removing it felt like accepting something final. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Jordan, her boyfriend of 3 years, her almost safe place, her one familiar thing in a world that had suddenly turned sharp and unpredictable. She didn't answer. When she finally pulled herself together enough to shower and change, she found him already inside her apartment, spare key old habit. He stood in her kitchen like he owned the space arms crossed, wearing the crisp blue button-down he saved for meetings with his father. He didn't look worried. He looked annoyed. "You didn't call me back," he said immediately. "Not even a hello." Lily gazed at him, searching for something. Concern, softness, anything that resembled love. But his expression was tight, impatient. "I fainted," she said quietly, setting her bag down. "At work." He blinked. "Okay, but you could have texted." Lily felt her stomach twist. She wasn't sure if it was the illness or the disappointment. "I was in the hospital, Jordan," she murmured. For a moment his face faltered. Just a flicker. But then came the familiar suffocating rationalization. "Well, you look fine now." She almost laughed. A small, broken sound. She took a deep breath. "Jordan, there's something we need to talk about." But before she could continue, his phone lit up. He glanced at it, smiled at the screen in a way he didn't realize she could see, and slid it into his pocket again. Lily knew that smile. She'd once believed it was meant only for her. Her chest tightened. "What was that?" she asked softly. Jordan waved a hand dismissively. "Work stuff. You were saying..." She looked at him, really looked at him. The easy confidence, the careless posture, the way he seemed to assume she would always be here, always waiting. She imagined telling him about the cancer, about the months she had left, the fear that clung to her like a second skin. But instinct told her he would hear the word cancer and respond with logistics inconvenience his mother's opinion. Not love, not comfort. So, she swallowed it down. Instead, she asked, "Do you even want to know how I'm feeling?" Jordan rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Lily, you're being dramatic. You fainted. It happens. People faint." She stared at him, stunned by how small he was, making everything. Her fear, her pain, her grief. "And you didn't think to check on me," she whispered. Jordan's jaw tightened. "My mother called. She needed me." Of course she did. Mrs. Harris needed everything. Her husband's obedience, her daughter's perfection, and her son's love, preserved in its pure, untainted form. A form Lily apparently threatened simply by existing. A girl like Lily simply isn't right for the Harris family. The words had once been whispered behind a closed door Lily wasn't meant to overhear. She never told Jordan she had, and he never denied them. Later that afternoon, Lily walked into Jordan's family home, the Harris estate in Connecticut. She had agreed to visit because Jordan insisted his mother wanted to talk things out. It wasn't until she arrived that she realized the real reason. They were waiting for her in the living room, Jordan, his mother, and the kind of uncomfortable silence that felt rehearsed. Mrs. Harris gave her a tight-lipped smile. "Lily, dear, sit." Lily sat. Jordan stood behind his mother's chair like a loyal soldier. Mrs. Harris folded her hands, diamonds glittering beneath the chandelier. "I heard you had a little episode at work." Lily held her breath. A little episode. That was one way to describe her world collapsing. "I'm fine," she replied simply. "Good, good." Mrs. Harris nodded. "Because Jordan and I were discussing your future. Together." Lily's eyes lifted. "Our future." Jordan cleared his throat. "Yeah. Mom thinks we should consider getting married sooner rather than later." Married. The word hit Lily like a slap. Mrs. Harris smiled sweetly. Too sweetly. You know how emotional women can get when they feel insecure. A ring would give you reassurance. Lily blinked slowly, stunned into silence. Reassurance. No one here had asked her what she wanted. No one had asked if she dreamed of marriage or children, or a future she wasn't even sure she had anymore. Mrs. Harris went on, her tone growing quietly sharp. And of course, once you're married into the Harris family, you'll have responsibilities, public image, expectations, behavior, presentation. You'll need to elevate certain aspects of your background. Lily felt her pulse spike. There it was, not subtle this time. Jordan stepped in, oblivious. Babe, listen. It's not like that. We're just trying to help you feel secure. I know how you get sometimes. How she gets. As if her fear, her exhaustion, her entire life unraveling, was a personality quirk. Lily pressed her nails into her palm, grounding herself. Jordan, she said quietly, this isn't about love for you, is it? Jordan frowned. What kind of question is that? Mrs. Harris sighed dramatically. Lily, dear, don't be sensitive. We're offering you stability. Lily studied their faces. Jordan looked inconvenienced. Mrs. Harris looked victorious. And Lily, she felt something inside her begin to harden. I'm not a problem you need to manage, she said softly. Mrs. Harris tilted her head. No, of course not. We simply want what's best for our family. Our family, not yours. Jordan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, smiled. That same smile from earlier. But this time, Lily saw the name. Tessa. Her best friend. Her stomach plummeted. Why is she texting you? Lily asked. Jordan blinked, too slow, too guilty. We talk sometimes. Lily stood. Show me. Lily. Show. Me. Mrs. Harris clicked her tongue. Lily, you're being hysterical. But Lily didn't hear her. Her eyes locked onto Jordan's demanding truth. He hesitated only a second too long. That was enough. Lily grabbed his phone before he could stop her. Her fingers scrolled numb but steady. Messages, pictures, nights together she hadn't known about. Words she had once believed belonged only to her. Her throat grew tight, raw, as if she'd swallowed broken glass. Jordan reached out. Babe, it's not. Don't, she choked out. Don't call me that. Mrs. Harris exhaled in annoyance. This is exactly why we wanted you married. You get so emotional. Lily turned to her, voice trembling but sharp as steel. I'm emotional because I found out my boyfriend has been sleeping with my best friend. Mrs. Harris stiffened. Jordan took a step forward. We can talk about this. No, Lily said, stepping back. The shaking in her legs didn't matter. We can't. Her whole body felt like it was cracking open. But beneath the heartbreak, beneath the betrayal and humiliation, something fierce was rising. A clarity. A strength she didn't know she had left. She straightened her shoulders. I'm done, Jordan. Jordan's eyes widened. Lily, wait. I'm not something for you to fix. Her voice wavered, but her gaze didn't. I'm not a liability or a burden or a box you check for diversity points. And I'm definitely not a consolation prize for you and your mother to negotiate. She moved toward the door. Every step felt like walking through fire. Jordan reached for her wrist. Lily, don't do this. I can't let you leave like... She pulled her arm back. You don't get to let me do anything, she whispered. Then she looked him dead in the eyes and said the words that sealed the moment. I'm not merchandise you get to price. She walked out. And for the first time since the diagnosis, the air outside felt sharp, cold, and painfully real. As she stepped onto the driveway, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She didn't recognize it. She almost ignored it. But something made her answer. A voice she didn't know. Low. Calm. distinctly controlled. "Miss Thompson, this is Ethan Blackwood. I believe we need to talk." Lily stopped walking. Her heartbeat stumbled. She had no idea then, but this was the moment her life would change. The moment one world ended and another quietly began. The moment her story took its first step toward him, toward everything. The sky over Manhattan had the color of bruised steel when Lily stepped out of the Harris estate. The air smelled faintly of wet concrete rain, settling into the cracks of the world the way she wished she could. Invisible, weightless, less breakable. But she wasn't invisible. She was unraveling. Her steps carried her forward, though she wasn't sure how. She didn't remember the subway ride back into the city, nor the walk from the station to Midtown. Everything blurred into a single trembling instinct. Move. Just move. Hours later, she stood in front of the Blackford Media Tower. 12 stories of glass and polished stone, rising like a monument to everything she'd ever wanted and everything she'd never truly had. The streetlights cast long streaks across the sidewalk, catching on her damp cheeks. She pressed her palm against the cold marble of the building's facade as if grounding herself. She didn't cry. Not here. Not anymore. Inside the lobby, the warmth glowed golden. People swirled in and out, sleek suits, sharp heels, polished confidence. A world that had never felt like hers, but had always demanded everything from her. Lily sucked in a breath and steadied her shoulders. She wasn't sure why she came. Maybe to remind herself she still existed outside the wreckage of her relationship. Maybe because this was the only place left that resembled a future, even if it was slipping away from her too. Or maybe, though she didn't admit it, because she didn't want to go home to an empty apartment where the hospital bracelet still waited on her bathroom counter like a quiet sentence. She was so lost in thought, she didn't notice the black SUV pulling up to the curb, nor the man stepping out until his presence shifted the air. Tall, sharp lines, an immaculate charcoal coat cutting through the gloom, eyes like fragments of winter sky. Ethan Blackwood. She'd only seen him from afar company events, rare appearances on upper floors, the occasional photo in Forbes or the Wall Street Journal. He was the kind of man people whispered about, with reverence or fear depending on the day. She had never expected him to look at her. But he did. He was heading inside when he paused mid-stride, gaze locking onto her as if pulled by something instinctive invisible. Lily's breath caught. For a long moment he simply studied her, her soaked hair clinging to her face. The exhaustion etched along her jaw, the faint shake in her hands. She felt exposed under the weight of his attention, as if he saw through the armor she'd spent years building. Then, something flickered in his expression. Something she couldn't place. Recognition. Not of her face, but of her name. Later, she would learn that HR had placed her file on his desk earlier that day. Another underperforming employee they recommended he quietly phase out to keep the company's statistics clean. But right now, she had no idea why this stranger was looking at her like she mattered. She glanced away, embarrassed. That was when the guard approached. A broad-shouldered man in uniform, his expression already twisted into irritation. Or maybe it had been waiting for her. "Ma'am," he called sharply, "you need to step away from the entrance." Lily blinked. "I'm just standing here." "You're not allowed to loiter in front of corporate rooftops," he snapped. "Move along." Loiter. Her stomach sank. Here it was again, the assumptions, the invisible lines she crossed simply by existing in certain spaces. She took a breath. "I work here." The guard scoffed. "Sure you do. I see your type all the time." His eyes flicked over her clothes, her rain-damp hair, her skin. Lily's chest tightened. Not now. Not today. She didn't have the strength for this. "I have an ID badge." She began reaching into her purse, but the guard stepped closer, voice rising. "Ma'am, I'm telling you to move. Don't make this complicated." A few passers-by glanced over, whispered. Lily felt heat crawl up her neck. She tried again, voice thinner this time. "I said, I work here. Is there a problem?" The words cut cleanly through the tension. Cold, precise, controlled. The security guard stiffened. Lily turned. Ethan Blackwood was standing only a few feet away, command radiating from him like a second skin. The city lights played off his sharp features, painting him in gold and shadow. "Mr. Blackwood, sir." The guard scrambled upright. "I didn't realize." You didn't realize what Ethan's voice was dangerously quiet. The guard looked between them, suddenly nervous. She was blocking the entrance. Ethan's gaze didn't shift. She wasn't blocking anything. "I thought she didn't belong." "She does." The words were firm enough to silence the entire sidewalk. Then Ethan stepped closer, close enough that Lily felt the warmth of his coat, close enough that the rain softened between them as if making room. He didn't look at the guard. He looked at Lily. Expression unreadable, but eyes quietly, intensely focused. "Miss Thompson is an employee of this company," Ethan said, his tone turning impossibly sharp. "If anyone has a problem with that, they can bring it to me." The guard swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." Ethan's voice dropped lower, almost lethal. "And if I hear that any staff member is targeted or harassed again, you'll be unemployed before sunrise." "Clear. Crystal clear," the guard stammered. He backed away, quickly. And just like that, the storm shifted. Lily felt her heart beating somewhere near her throat. No one had ever spoken on her behalf like that. No one had ever even considered doing so. She opened her mouth. Thank you." Ethan's gaze brushed over her face, not in a way that felt intrusive, but in a way that felt like he was memorizing details without meaning to. "You shouldn't have had to thank me," he said simply. "You were treated unfairly." His voice wasn't gentle. It was too controlled for that, but there was something softer beneath it. Something that startled her more than the confrontation. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she wasn't sure for what. Ethan frowned lightly. "Why are you apologizing?" Lily blinked, caught off guard. "Because, I don't know. I guess I'm used to it." His eyes tightened just barely, but enough to hint at an emotion she couldn't name. "Come inside," Ethan said. "You're freezing." Her pulse jumped. "I don't want to trouble you." "You're not," he interrupted, calm but unmistakably resolute. "And you're shivering." She hadn't even noticed. He held the door open. For a moment, Lily hesitated, caught between instinct and exhaustion, between fear and the quiet gravity of this man she barely knew. Her world had fallen apart only hours ago. She had nothing left to give, nothing left to trust. But something about Ethan, the steadiness, the unexpected protectiveness, the way he said her name like it wasn't an afterthought, pulled at her in a way she didn't understand, and didn't entirely resist. She stepped inside. Warm air enveloped her, carrying the faint scent of cedar and citrus, the kind of cologne that didn't ask for attention, but commanded it anyway. Ethan followed the door closing behind them with a low, final sound. For one suspended second, their eyes met in the reflection of the marble floor. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Lily's heart thudded. Ethan Blackwood was a man who did not ignore anything. But he ignored that. For her. The realization left her breathless. He gestured toward the elevator. "Come on. You need a place to sit." She nodded slowly, unsure why her steps felt suddenly unsteady. As they moved forward, one thought bloomed in the quiet corners of her mind, a small, fragile spark cutting through the wreckage of the day. Maybe fate hadn't abandoned her after all. Maybe it was only waiting for her to step into its path. Blackford's 12th floor always smelled faintly of polished wood and ambition. That morning, when Lily stepped out of the elevator, conversations tapered just slightly, barely enough to be noticeable, but sharp enough for her to feel. Eyes flicked toward her. Quick glances, quiet assumptions. The usual. Except this time, something had changed. Whispers followed her down the hallway, just soft enough for plausible deniability. Isn't she the one he walked in with last night? Didn't know Ethan Blackwood had a type. Of course, she's getting a project. She's the diversity shield. The words weren't loud, but they didn't need to be. They landed exactly where prejudice always did, under the skin. Lily kept walking, kept breathing, kept pretending. She reached her desk just as an email pinged a notification that nearly made her heart stop. Project lead appointment. Digital vision campaign. Assigned to L. Thompson. Her hand trembled. This was one of Blackford's biggest campaigns of the quarter, high stakes, high visibility, designed to impress clients and investors alike. It wasn't the kind of project you gave to someone HR wanted to remove. She read the email twice, 3 times. Her pulse fluttered with something painfully close to hope, but she cut the feeling off quickly. She wouldn't assume. She wouldn't dream. She wouldn't be foolish again. Morning. Lily looked up, and there he was. Ethan Blackwood stood beside her desk-tailored suit, sharp as a blade, eyes clear and unreadable. The rest of the office seemed to hold its breath. He didn't come down to this floor. Not ever. Not unless something mattered. Lily stood automatically. "Sir Ethan," he corrected softly. Her breath hitched, but she nodded, unable to trust her voice. He glanced at the screen, seeing the open email. "I assume you received your assignment?" "Yes." Lily kept her tone steady, professional. "But I think there may have been a mistake." Ethan raised one brow. "What makes you think that?" "Because people like her didn't get chances like this. Because girls from Harlem weren't chosen for flagship projects. Because she couldn't distinguish real opportunity from pity anymore." She swallowed. "Given recent events, I don't want preferential treatment." His expression darkened, not with anger, but something deeper. Something almost wounded. "Is that what you think this is?" he asked quietly. Lily hesitated. "People talk. People always talk." Ethan's jaw flexed, the first crack in his composure. "They talked when I took over the company. They talked when my father died. They talked when we decided to merge divisions. Rumors never interested me, Miss Thompson." She looked away, throat tight. Ethan stepped closer, not invasive, but close enough that the noise of the office faded behind them. "I did not assign you this project because of your skin color," he said, voice low and precise. "I assigned it to you because your work is sharp, because your instincts are excellent, because you see angles my senior staff repeatedly fail to notice." Lily blinked, the words sinking in slow and warm. And he added after a breath, "Because I trust you." That landed harder than anything else. Trust. It was terrifying, beautiful, dangerous. She forced her voice steady. "I just don't want to be someone's charity case." His gaze softened in a way she wasn't prepared for. "You're the last person who needs charity," he murmured, "and the last person who would accept it." Heat pooled in her cheeks. She hated how easily he could disarm her with sincerity, how quickly her defenses cracked when he looked at her like that, as if she were something rare. "Will you take it?" Ethan asked. "The project?" He nodded. Lily inhaled slowly. The project could change everything for her career. But it also placed her directly in the line of fire. Jealous colleagues, whispered rumors, the relentless scrutiny of a company already looking for reasons to push her aside. Still, she wanted it. Not because of him, because of her. "Yes," she said finally. "I'll take it." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. Good. He stepped back, slipping smoothly into CEO mode. We start at 10. Boardroom C. He paused, eyes lingering on her a moment too long. I'll walk you through the client expectations. You don't have to. I know. His gaze softened again. But I want to. With that he left, leaving a subtle shift of air in his wake, and Lily's heartbeat stumbling. The meeting began like any other, but the atmosphere was different. Every executive in the room kept glancing between Ethan and Lily, expressions tightening, guarded. They were waiting for him to slip, waiting for her to fail. Instead, Ethan did something that startled even her. He deferred to her, repeatedly. When a senior strategist questioned her proposal, Ethan cut in with a cool, "She's correct," before Lily could defend herself. When another executive attempted to speak over her, Ethan's voice sliced clean through the interruption. Let her finish. And when she presented a bold idea, one she would have been too afraid to vocalize months ago, Ethan leaned forward, interest sharp and genuine. That's the direction we'll take, he decided. No hesitation. Someone across the table muttered under their breath. Something about special treatment. Lily heard it. Ethan did too. His jaw flexed once, but he didn't address it. Not yet. Instead, after the meeting, he stopped her at the door. You did well, he said quietly. Lily exhaled shakily. Thank you. I'm still figuring it out. That's what good leaders do. His voice dipped lower. And Lily, she looked up. I believe in you, he said. Her pulse fluttered violently. That was the moment she realized Ethan Blackwood wasn't just supportive. He was dangerous. Not in the way people warned her wealthy men were. Not in the way power corrupted or seduced. He was dangerous because he made her want to hope again. Hope for herself. For her future. For something that might bloom between them, slow and fragile and impossibly bright. She stepped back before the feeling could root too deeply. Then I won't disappoint you, she said. A shadow crossed his expression, brief, unreadable. You won't. As she walked away, she didn't see the way he watched her, didn't notice the war he fought with himself, didn't hear the thought echoing quietly in his mind. I would burn the whole company down before I let them hurt you. She didn't know it yet, but the project would not just test her. It would test him too, and something far greater than a campaign had already begun to shift between them, too subtle to name, too powerful to ignore. A fault line, a beginning, a spark in dry air waiting for one wrong move to ignite everything. The contract negotiation was supposed to be routine, tense, yes, but predictable. Blackford's clients were known for their demands and their egos, but nothing Lily couldn't handle, nothing she hadn't prepared for. What she hadn't prepared for was Ethan insisting she come along. Your strategy shaped the entire pitch, he told her earlier that afternoon. If they question a detail, you're the person I trust to answer. I trust. Those words stayed with her all day, threading warmth through her chest. She didn't want to examine too closely. But as evening fell, and the city lights blurred into a ribbon of gold and shadow, the meeting took a sharp, unexpected turn. The restaurant was one of those exclusive midtown places, dark wood, expensive wine men who mistook arrogance for confidence. Lily sat beside Ethan across from two senior partners from Waverly and Cumberland, men whose smiles never reached their eyes. It didn't take more than 10 minutes for the comments to begin. So, you're the creative mind behind this? One of the partners asked, eyes lingering too long on Lily. Interesting choice. Interesting. Not impressive. Not innovative. Just interesting. A word people used when they wanted to mask prejudice. Lily kept her posture straight, her voice even as she explained the campaign metrics. But the partner smirked, leaning closer. You know our clients tend to prefer someone with experience. Someone who understands their world. Lily understood exactly what world he meant. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't intervene. Not yet. He wanted to give her space to stand on her own. So she did. Then they'll appreciate a strategy that expands beyond their usual perspective, Lily replied calmly. That's why we were hired, isn't it? A flicker of surprise crossed the man's face. But the second partner leaned in, voice quieter, more dangerous, bold for someone so new. Ethan set down his glass. The sound was soft, but the tension tightened like a pulled wire. She's not new, he said. She's qualified. The partner chuckled. Relax, Ethan. We're just having a conversation. But as the night dragged on, the tension sharpened. When the contracts came out, one of the men accidentally brushed Lily's arm as he passed the folder. Too slow, too deliberate. She flinched, and that was it. Ethan moved. Not dramatically, he simply shifted his chair, placing himself between her and the partners with a quiet, unshakable authority. But the message was unmistakable. If you touch her again, you answer to me. The room stilled. The men exchanged glances, annoyed but unwilling to risk offending Blackwood. The contract was signed quickly after that. When they stepped outside, it was already past 10. The city hummed low and electric around them. Lily wrapped her arms around herself, trying to steady her breathing. You okay, Ethan? Asked softly. She nodded, even though she wasn't. Ethan watched her a moment too long. I'm sorry I didn't step in sooner. You let me handle it, she replied. I needed that. I know, he said. But I also know when something crosses a line. Lily exhaled, tension bleeding out of her shoulders. Thank you. He didn't respond immediately. His gaze traced her face, the faint tremble in her jaw, the exhaustion around her eyes, the hurt she'd worked so hard to hide. You shouldn't have had to endure that, he said. Not tonight. Not ever. Something in her softened at the sincerity in his voice. But then the misunderstanding slipped in, quiet, sharp. People are going to twist this, she said. Us leaving together. You defending me like that. They'll say it's favoritism. Ethan's expression darkened. If anyone has a problem, they can come to me. That's easy for you to say, she whispered. You don't pay the price for rumors. I do. The words hung between them, honest, painful. Ethan stepped closer, eyes burning with a frustration she didn't understand. I don't want you to mistake my support for pity, he said, voice low, or assumption. Or, I know Lily cut in, but her voice wavered. I can't afford to need you. The truth hit the air like a spark. Ethan inhaled sharply, as if her words struck something unguarded inside him. Then the moment shifted suddenly, silently, when a drunk man stumbled out of a nearby bar and bumped roughly into Lily, nearly knocking her off balance. Before she could fall, Ethan's hands caught her, one at her waist, one at her shoulder, warm, strong, unyielding. Her breath hitched, and the world narrowed to the space between them. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then steadier, blurring the lights around them into halos. Lily's hair clung to her cheeks, and Ethan's coat grew dark with water, but neither of them moved. She felt his heartbeat against her, steady, dangerously comforting. Are you hurt? He asked, voice barely a whisper now. No, she breathed. Just startled. But that wasn't true. She was trembling for an entirely different reason. Ethan didn't let go. Couldn't. His fingers tightened slightly at her waist, as if he were fighting something. Fighting himself. Fighting the obvious. And Lily. She was tired of fighting everything. For one suspended heartbeat, they both leaned in, not enough to bridge the distance, but enough to feel its gravity. Her eyes lifted. His dropped to her mouth. Something unspoken cracked open. And then he kissed her. soft at first, as if asking a question with his mouth, then deeper as if answering one. The rain fell harder, drumming against the pavement, against the city that kept on spinning, oblivious to the moment, unraveling in its shadows. Lily's hands found his coat. Ethan's breath hitched against her lips. It was the kind of kiss that wasn't supposed to happen. Not between them. Not now. Not here. But it did. When they finally pulled apart, they both stared, shaken, breathless, not quite believing what had just happened. Ethan stepped back first, running a hand through his rain-soaked hair, struggling to collect himself. "That shouldn't have happened," he said, voice rough. "I know," Lily whispered, but her heart contradicted her with every frantic beat. They stood there, both caught in the aftermath of a moment that changed everything. Neither dared speak the truth, that the kiss wasn't an accident, and neither of them regretted it. The hotel suite was too quiet after the contract signing, quiet, in that way that felt charged, like the air had been waiting for them to walk through the door. Rain still clung to Lily's hair. Ethan's jaw was tight, his tie loosened from the negotiations and the fight outside. Neither spoke, not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, something shifted. Not rushed, not impulsive, just inevitable. Lily stood near the window, the city glittering behind her like 1,000 watching eyes. Her breath was uneven, still shaken from the kiss on the street, from everything it had awakened inside her. When Ethan approached, he didn't touch her at first. He simply stopped at her side, close enough that she could feel his warmth against her rain-cooled skin. "Lily," he said quietly. Her name sounded different when he said it, less like a label, more like a question, a plea, a warning. She turned toward him, and the look in his eyes, raw, conflicted, gentle, undid her. This wasn't desire. Not only desire. It was something deeper, something dangerous. "Ethan," she whispered back. And that was all it took. One breath. One moment. And the distance between them collapsed. His mouth found hers again, not like the first kiss, which had been a spark in the rain, but something slow and searching, as if he were trying to memorize the shape of her heartbreak. Her fingers curled into his shirt. He pulled her closer, not to claim her, but to hold her together. Clothes were discarded in quiet urgency, trailing between the window and the bed. He kissed the worry from her brow. She traced the tension from his shoulders. Every touch felt like telling the truth with their hands, truth neither dared speak aloud. It wasn't about passion, though. There was plenty. It was about relief. For one night, they weren't CEO and employee, weren't a black woman fighting for space in a world that refused to make room, weren't a man born into power that felt more like chains than privilege. They were two people whose lives were unraveling for different reasons, finding a place to breathe in each other. And when they finally collapsed together beneath the sheets, the city lights painting soft gold across their skin, Lily allowed herself to rest in the shelter of his arms. For the first time in months, she felt safe. For the first time since the diagnosis, she didn't feel alone. Ethan brushed a thumb across her knuckles. A simple gesture, too tender for what they were supposed to be. "You don't have to be afraid," he murmured into her hair. If only he knew. Lily closed her eyes, letting the warmth of him settle into the hollow places inside her. She wished she could freeze this moment, bottle it, hide inside it, keep it untouched by reality. But morning always came. The first hint of dawn crept through the windows, brushing pale light across the room. Lily stirred, eyes opening slowly. Ethan slept beside her, breath, steady, lashes, dark against his cheek. Without the armor he wore during the day, he looked impossibly human. Vulnerable even. Something twisted painfully in her chest. This wasn't her world. This wasn't her future. This wasn't something she could survive. She sat up, careful not to wake him. Her head spun, not from the night, but from the reality waiting outside the suite. She had cancer, months left, a shrinking future, a truth she still hadn't told him. She couldn't drag him into that darkness, couldn't let him think she belonged in his life when hers was slipping away. So she did the only thing she thought would protect them both. She chose fear over hope and ran. Lily dressed quietly, hands shaking as she picked up her clothes from the carpet. She paused at the door, looking back one last time at the man who had held her like she was something precious. "Forgive me," she whispered. Then she left. By the time Ethan woke, the suite was empty. Her warmth was still on the pillow. Her scent still lingered in the air. And in the silence, she left behind something in him cracked. Not loudly, not visibly, but deeply enough that he would feel it long after the room had gone cold. Lily woke the next morning in her apartment with the weight of her decision pressing against her ribs like an invisible hand. She hadn't slept. She'd tried. She'd curled beneath her blankets, eyes squeezed shut. But every time she drifted close to sleep, a memory of Ethan's lips, his hands, his quiet tenderness jolted her awake. Her body still remembered the warmth of him. Her heart remembered too much. She pushed herself out of bed before dawn, pacing the apartment in restless circles. By 7, she was fully dressed, hair pulled back, laptop bag packed. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at a blank email draft as if it were a bomb she had to disarm. Finally, with a breath she didn't feel, she typed the words that made her stomach twist. Effective immediately. I am resigning from Blackford Media. Her finger hovered over the send button. She shouldn't do this. She shouldn't run. But staying wasn't an option either. Not when every morning she woke with a new ache in her stomach. Not when doctor appointments piled up like countdowns. Not when she had no idea how long the illusion of normal would last before her body betrayed her again. And certainly not when Ethan, dangerously kind, quietly intense Ethan, had become someone she could fall for with terrifying ease. She clicked send. The email shot off. And it was done. The silence afterward felt like a cliff edge. She almost made it through the morning without hearing from him. Almost. By 9, her phone lit up with his name. By 10, the calls doubled. By 11, the knocking began. Not just knocking is knocking. Firm, steady, patient. Lily. Her breath froze. She closed her eyes, leaning against the door. She could feel him on the other side. His presence, his warmth, his steadiness. "Please open the door," he said. Not commanding, not cold, just human, too human. She stayed silent. Ethan exhaled softly. "I know you're inside." Her heartbeat slammed against her ribs. Of course he knew. Ethan Blackwood didn't rise to power by guessing. After a moment, she heard the faint scrape of his hand sliding down the door as if he were grounding himself against it. "You resigned." Her throat tightened. "You left without a word." He continued. "You didn't answer my calls. You didn't return my messages." She swallowed, pressing her forehead to the wood. "Ethan, don't do this." "Then open the door." She didn't move. "Lily," he said softly, "talk to me." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I can't." A beat of silence. Then she heard him lean closer. "Last night meant something to me." Her chest ached. She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head even though he couldn't see it. "It shouldn't have," she whispered. "Don't lie to me." Her breath caught. Ethan's voice dropped to a quiet plea. "Please don't pretend it didn't happen." Tears prickled at her lashes. He continued, tone raw in a way she'd never heard from him. "I woke up and you were gone. Do you know how that felt? She bit her lip, not letting a sound escape. Like I'd done something wrong, he said. Like I'd hurt you. Her breath hitched. You didn't hurt me, she whispered. The truth burned on its way out. That's why I left. Silence. Sharp, stunned. Lily, he said slowly. You're not making sense. She stepped back from the door, hugging herself. Just go, Ethan. No. She squeezed her eyes shut. Please. No, he repeated, firmer this time. Not until you tell me why. She shook her head helplessly. You can't fix this. Let me try. You can't. Her voice cracked. You can't fix me. Ethan went quiet for a long moment. Then softly, I'm not trying to fix you. Her knees weakened. I'm trying to understand you. A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. You don't understand, she whispered. You can't see the truth when you're looking at me like that. Like what? Like I'm someone you want, she whispered, voice breaking. Another silence, then a breath, unsteady, painful, real. I do want you, he said quietly. Her heart cracked. That's the problem, she whispered. She could picture him on the other side of the door, jaw tight, brows drawn, trying to hold himself together. Lily, he said, voice deep with something close to desperation. Let me in. Please. Her hand hovered over the handle, but she didn't open it. Instead, she stepped back as if the doorknob were fire. I can't give you what you want, she said. I don't have time. The quiet that followed was knife-sharp. Ethan spoke carefully, as if choosing each word mattered. What do you mean you don't have time? Her breath shook. Lily, he repeated, voice lower, closer. Talk to me. What's going on? She shook her head, tears slipping freely now. I can't pull you into this. Into what? Her silence was answer enough. Ethan cursed softly under his breath, a rare crack in his composure. Then in a low, anguished voice, don't push me out of your life. Her chest caved inward. I'm not leaving because I don't care, she whispered. I'm leaving because I do. You don't get to decide what I can handle, he shot back. There was a strain in his voice she had never heard from him. Not anger, not control. Fear. Lily, let me in. Let me help you. You can't save me. He exhaled shakily. I'm not trying to save you. I'm trying to stay. Her heart thudded painfully. Again she reached for the door handle. Again she couldn't turn it. I have to go, she whispered. Stop saying that. I'm sorry. Footsteps shifted on the other side. Then his voice, soft, breaking. Don't walk away from me. Ethan, don't do this. Her tears fell silently. She pressed her palm against the door one last time. A goodbye he couldn't feel. Then she stepped back, grabbed her coat, and slipped out through the stairwell on the far end of the hallway, running not because she wanted to, but because she was terrified of staying, terrified of giving him hope he didn't deserve, terrified of letting herself believe love could save her from what waited inside her body. She ran until her lungs burned, ran until the city blurred, ran until his voice faded behind her like a ghost she carried inside her ribs. Ethan stayed outside her apartment long after she left. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't accept the silence she'd left him with. When he finally turned away from the door, something dark and determined settled behind his eyes. She'd walked away, but he wasn't done. Not even close. If she thought he would let her slip out of his life without a fight, she didn't know him at all. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and quiet grief, an unmistakable scent Ethan had come to hate in the minutes he'd been standing there, fingers curled around the edge of the reception desk. He hadn't planned to end up here. He had only intended to find Lily to demand an explanation he was no longer patient enough to wait for. But when her phone went unanswered for the 22nd time in a row, and her apartment remained empty, something inside him snapped loose. He traced her name through every database he had access to, every contact, every lead, until one entry appeared in the system like a knife slipping between his ribs. Thompson Lily, recent inpatient admission. Without thinking, he was already in his car, already breaking every traffic law Manhattan had to offer. Now he stood at the reception desk, heart-pounding, voice raw. "My name is Ethan Blackwood," he said tightly. "I need to know which doctor treated Lily Thompson." The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, I can't." He leaned in desperation and authority bleeding together in ways he didn't bother to hide. "She's missing. I'm trying to make sure she's safe." The woman's expression softened just enough for her to nod toward a hallway. "Third floor. Oncology." Oncology. The word punched him in the sternum. Ethan didn't remember getting into the elevator, didn't remember stepping onto the third floor. His body moved without him, driven by a fear he hadn't felt since he buried his father. A cold, suffocating terror. He approached the nurse's station. "Lily Thompson," he said, voice shaking now despite his efforts. "Please." The nurse recognized the name. Her eyes gave it away, pity-heavy and resigned. "She was here for consultations and testing," she said quietly. "But she was discharged." Discharged. Ethan's voice cracked. "She's sick, isn't she?" The nurse hesitated only a second, then soft as a blade sliding through silk. "She has advanced gastric cancer." Ethan staggered, literally staggered, hand gripping the counter as the floor tilted beneath him. The nurse reached for him, but he steadied himself, throat working, breath erratic. Cancer. Advanced. Lily had been dying alone. Why didn't she tell anyone, he whispered. The nurse looked at him with gentle understanding. Some people run because they're trying to protect the ones they love. The words hit him harder than any blow. He turned away, heart slamming violently against his ribs, and left without another word. The drive to Lily's apartment was a blur of red lights he didn't stop for, and street corners he didn't remember passing. Rain began to fall, the same rain that had wrapped them on the night their lips first met, turning the city into a watery smear of neon and sorrow. He had never felt this way. Not for anyone. Not ever. Not even close. He didn't knock when he reached her door. He pounded. "Lily." No response. He slammed again, louder. "Open the door. Now." Still nothing. A neighbor cracked their door open, startled. Ethan shot them a look that made them retreat instantly. "Lily." His voice broke around the edges. "I know you're in there." He pressed his forehead to the door, the rain dripping from his hair onto the floor, his breath uneven. "Please," he whispered. "Just let me see you." Inside the apartment, he heard a faint shift, a fragile sound. Then the lock clicked. The door opened just a few inches, and Lily stood there. Her eyes were swollen, her hair unkempt, her clothes wrinkled as if she'd been sitting on the ground for hours. She looked like she'd been crying for a century, like she was carrying the weight of her own ending. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan stepped inside and shut the door behind him. Lily backed away, arms wrapped around herself, as if holding herself together by sheer force. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Ethan stared at her, chest heaving. "You're sick." She flinched. He saw it, saw the truth, the fear she'd been hiding, saw the pain she never wanted anyone to witness. He approached her slowly, as if she were a wounded animal he didn't want to startle. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, voice trembling. She looked away. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me," he said fiercely. She shook her head. tears slipping down her cheeks. I didn't want you to feel responsible. I didn't want... What Ethan cut in, stepping closer. You didn't want me to care. Her lips trembled. I didn't want to trap you in something you didn't choose. He swallowed hard. You think I didn't choose you the moment I first saw you standing outside Blackford in the rain? She froze. He kept going, his voice cracking open like a wound. You think I haven't spent every day since learning you studying, you wanting you? He breathed out shakily. You think I wouldn't walk through every version of hell just to keep you alive one more minute? Lily's breath hitched. She covered her mouth as if the truth physically hurt. You don't understand, she choked. I don't have time. Don't say that. Ethan grabbed her hands, holding them with a desperation that bordered on prayer. Don't you dare decide the ending for us. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was trying to protect you, and instead you broke me, he whispered. His voice was soft, but each word was a knife. You walked away and left me wondering what I did wrong, wondering why you ran from me, wondering why nothing made sense anymore. Lily sobbed, a small, strangled sound ripped from her chest. I didn't want you to watch me die. Ethan stepped forward in one sharp movement and pulled her into his arms. She stiffened, then collapsed against him, sobs shaking through her body. He held her like someone trying to hold back a tidal wave with his bare hands. You're not dying, he said into her hair. Not without a fight, not alone. She cried harder, fists bunching in his shirt. He cupped the back of her head, voice breaking. Lily, look at me. She lifted her tear-streaked face, and Ethan said the words that shattered her. Are you really going to let me live the rest of my life knowing I didn't get to love you when I had the chance? Her knees buckled. He caught her lifting her chin gently. If you only have months, he whispered, I will love you with decades worth of devotion. If you only have days, I'll spend every hour showing you what your life meant to mine. And if you only have minutes, his voice cracked, I'll love you with all the minutes I have left. Lily broke. Completely. She clung to him as sobs tore through her, raw and unrestrained, the kind of crying she had never allowed herself. Not in hospitals, not in streets, not in the dark hours alone. And Ethan held her through every trembling breath, through every collapse, through every truth spilled onto his shirt. When she finally quieted, he kissed her forehead, her temple, her wet cheeks. Don't run from me again, he murmured. Her voice trembled. I'm so scared. I know, he whispered, but I'm here. For the first time, she let herself believe it. She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her like he was anchoring both of them to the earth. Outside, the rain softened. Inside, for the first time in months, she felt something shift inside her chest. Not hope, not yet, but the possibility of it, the beginning of it. And with her face pressed against Ethan's throat, she whispered the truth she had been too afraid to give him. I don't want to die without loving you. Ethan closed his eyes, holding her tighter. You won't, he breathed. Not if I can help it. When Ethan held Lily that night, whispering promises into her trembling hair, it felt like time paused, like the world took one merciful breath and stopped crushing them for just a moment. But life didn't stay paused. Morning light brought reality back with sharp edges. Lily woke in his arms, her cheek pressed to his chest. For a moment, she simply listened to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, wondering how something so constant could coexist with the chaos inside her. When she looked up, Ethan was already watching her, not with pity, not with fear, but with a steady grounding love that both warmed and terrified her. Good morning, he said softly. She swallowed. We shouldn't be doing this. He brushed a thumb across her cheek. We already are. A small broken laugh slipped out of her. "Ethan." "No," he murmured. "Not today. Today you stay with me." It wasn't a command. It wasn't a plea. It was a vow. But vows had consequences. His mother, Ethan, insisted on taking her to his mother's townhouse on the Upper East Side later that week. Lily protested, terrified of what the older woman would think, terrified that Ethan's family, with all their power and wealth and legacy, would look at her and see nothing but a ticking clock. But Ethan wouldn't relent. "If we're doing this," he said, threading his fingers through hers, "I want every part of my life to know you." Lily tried to argue, but he squeezed her hand gently. "Let me love you in the light," he murmured. So she let him take her. The townhouse was elegant, understated, filled with bookshelves and warm lighting. His mother, Margaret Blackwood, was a tall, striking woman with silver hair pulled into a perfect chignon. Her eyes, sharp with intelligence, widened when she saw Ethan walk in with a woman on his arm. The moment Ethan introduced Lily, something flickered across Margaret's face. Concern, instinctive protectiveness, and something else beneath it. Something Lily couldn't decipher. Tea was poured. Questions were asked. But the tension was unmistakable. Subtle, polite, but there. Margaret studied Lily carefully. Not cruelly, not judgmentally, cautiously. "You're in Ethan's life," she said finally. "That alone means you carry weight." Lily's pulse quickened. Ethan stiffened, ready to defend, but Margaret held up one hand. "Before you misunderstand," she continued, turning to Lily, "I am not questioning who you are. I'm questioning whether my son will survive losing you." The words hit Lily like an unexpected blow. Margaret's gaze softened. "He hasn't loved anyone since his father died. When he cares, he does so with every piece of himself. That is a beautiful thing, but it's also dangerous." Lily's breath faltered. Ethan reached for her hand, but she held still. "I understand," Lily whispered. "I don't want to hurt him." Margaret inhaled slowly. "Then help me understand something. If you know your time may be limited, why choose him? Why let him choose you?" Tears stung Lily's eyes before she could hide them. She didn't answer at first. She couldn't. Then softly, "Because he makes me want to live, even if I can't promise him forever." Margaret's expression shifted. Not relief, not approval, but respect. A mother recognizing the courage in another woman. Ethan exhaled the breath he'd been holding. Margaret reached across the table, resting her hand near Lily's, not touching but close enough to bridge something unspoken. "I was afraid," she admitted quietly. "Afraid of watching my son fall in love with someone only to lose them. But I see now. You're already both fighting the same war." Lily swallowed hard. Margaret's voice softened further. "I won't stand in your way." A tremor went through Ethan, subtle, but Lily felt it in the way he squeezed her hand beneath the table. For the first time in days, Lily felt like she wasn't fighting alone. Jordan. The sense of peace didn't last. A week later, Lily stepped out of her building to find Jordan leaning against a car, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes blazing with entitlement. She once mistook for charm. He pushed off the car the moment he saw her. "Lily, we need to talk." She froze. "I have nothing to say to you." He scoffed. "Right. Because now you have him." She stiffened. "What are you talking about?" Jordan laughed bitterly. "Don't play innocent. You're parading around with that billionaire like you didn't leave me because you wanted someone with deeper pockets." The accusation stung, but not because it was true. Because it was cruel. "I left you because you betrayed me," she said quietly. "And because you never truly saw me." Jordan's voice rose. "People are talking, Lily. They think you're using him, that you traded up." Her stomach twisted. So now I'm a gold digger. Is that it? Jordan leaned forward, voice dripping venom. You're using a rich white man to climb. Everyone sees it. Before Lily could respond, a familiar voice cut through the air. Funny, Ethan said as he approached. I must have missed the part where her entire worth depends on your fragile ego. Jordan whipped around. You. Ethan stepped in front of Lily. Protective, calm, dangerous in a way that didn't require shouting. You don't get to speak to her, Ethan said, voice low. Not after the things you've done. Jordan's face flushed. What, you think you own her now? Ethan's jaw flexed. I don't own her. I love her. Lily's breath caught. Jordan scoffed. Love? You mean you're her ticket out? Ethan cut him off sharply. The woman I love, he said. Voice clear and steady. Doesn't need her skin color, her background, or a man beside her to prove anything. Certainly not to someone who threw her away. Jordan blinked, momentarily stunned. Ethan's voice dropped to something deadly soft. If you come near her again, if you slander her again, if you so much as breathe in her direction with this poison, you and I will have a different conversation. Jordan swallowed hard. Lily had never seen fear in his eyes before. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. Then Jordan muttered something unintelligible, turned, and got into his car, slamming the door, before driving off. Silence settled in his wake. Lily stared at Ethan, breath trembling. You love me. Ethan turned to her, slowly, eyes searching hers. Not with hesitation, but with the certainty of a man who had considered every consequence and chosen her anyway. Yes, he said simply. I love you. Her lips parted, but no sound came. He reached for her hand, gently, not claiming, not demanding, just offering. Lily, he whispered, I don't care what the world thinks. I don't care about rumors or headlines or people who fear what they don't understand. His fingers brushed hers delicately, reverently. I care about you. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't deserve this. You deserve everything, he said softly. You always have. Her breath broke. And then she stepped into him, into the only place she'd felt whole in months, and he wrapped his arms around her, grounding her, anchoring her to a future she still didn't believe she could touch. But in that moment, she wanted to try. She wanted to believe. She wanted him. Maybe she wasn't brave enough to face the disease on her own, but she was brave enough to love him. And that was a start. The morning of Lily's follow-up appointment felt like walking through a dream she was afraid to wake from. The city glowed with early sunlight, gold pouring over brownstones, catching on glass windows, warming the chill of late spring. It was the kind of morning that whispered things could get better. But Lily's hands still trembled. Ethan noticed. He always noticed. As they approached the hospital entrance, he slipped his fingers between hers. Not to anchor her, not to pull her forward, to walk beside her. You don't have to be afraid, he murmured. She gave a small, tired smile. I'm not afraid of the results. I'm afraid of hope. Ethan paused, turned to her. His thumb brushed the back of her hand, slow and steady. Hope is not the enemy. It is when you've already watched your body betray you, she whispered. His brows tightened, not in frustration, but in sympathy so deep it almost hurt to look at. Then, let me carry hope for both of us, he said softly. And she squeezed his hand, because part of her wanted that, wanted to let someone else carry the weight she'd been dragging behind her for months. But the fear was still there, quietly clawing at her ribs. Inside the hospital, fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. Nurses walked briskly through the corridors, the world moving with a rhythm she no longer belonged to. Lily felt Ethan's arm graze hers, As they walked, the warmth of him grounding her in ways she didn't think possible. The exam room was cold, too white, too clinical. She sat on the edge of the bed, fingers twisting the hem of her jacket. Ethan stood beside her, one hand on her back, drawing slow circles that steadied her breathing. When Dr. Chen entered, Lily's heart clenched. The doctor's eyes softened, not with pity this time, but something gentler. "Lily," she said, settling onto the stool. "I have the results." Lily's breath caught. Ethan's fingers tightened on her shoulder. Dr. Chen smiled, the first true smile Lily had seen from her since the diagnosis. "Your tumor markers are dropping. Significantly." Lily blinked, unable to process. "Dropping?" "Yes. And the scans show the tumor has shrunk. Not dramatically, but enough to change your prognosis." A pulse of warmth shot through Lily's chest, fear and joy crashing together. "What? What does that mean?" she whispered. "It means your chances of long-term survival have improved," Dr. Chen said gently. "If this progress continues, we could be looking at years, not months." Years. The word hit Lily so hard she almost couldn't breathe. Ethan's breath left him in a shaky exhale. He closed his eyes briefly, relief breaking through his expression so intensely it made her throat burn. Dr. Chen continued, "I won't pretend the road is easy. We'll still need treatment, aggressive treatment, but you're responding better than we expected. Much better." Lily pressed a hand to her mouth, her vision blurring. I don't understand. Last time we were preparing for the worst, the doctor said. Now you're giving us reason to hope for the best." Ethan turned to Lily, bending slightly to meet her gaze, voice low. "Do you hear that?" Tears spilled down her cheeks, silent and overwhelming. "I don't know how to believe it." "That's okay," he murmured, cupping her face gently. "I believe it enough for both of us." They walked out of the hospital into sunlight that felt brighter than any morning Lily remembered. The breeze carried the scent of blooming dogwood, and the sky stretched endlessly blue above the city skyline. For a moment, she stood still on the steps, needing time to breathe, to absorb, to let reality settle into her bones. Ethan stood a step below her, looking up at her with an expression so full of love, it tightened her throat. "You're quiet," he said softly. She let out a shaky laugh. "I think my heart forgot how to feel something good." Ethan reached up, taking her hand, as if it was the most natural motion in the world. "Lily Thompson," he said, voice steady, steadying her. "Come, live the rest of your life with me." Her breath caught. "Not 3 months," he continued, eyes shining with emotion he didn't bother to hide. "Not in fear, not in hiding, not counting down time." He stepped up the last stair, standing equal with her, inches between them. "I'm asking you for a future," he whispered, "whatever length it may be." Her eyes stung again, not with grief this time, but with something lighter, softer, almost sweet. "I don't know how to give someone a future," she whispered. "Not when I barely trust my body to give me tomorrow." "Then give me today," he said, "and tomorrow we try again." Lily shook her head, a tear slipping free. "Ethan, you deserve someone who isn't broken." "I deserve the woman I love," he said simply. Her breath trembled. "And that woman is you." He squeezed her hand, gently grounding her. "Let me stay. Let me walk through this with you. Let me love you, Lily. Not as a savior, not as a fantasy, as your partner." The sunlight caught his features, turning his hair gold, softening the sharp lines of his jaw. He looked achingly real, heartbreakingly human. The world slowed around them. Lily swallowed hard, feeling the moment break open inside her chest, like a sunrise. "Ethan, are you sure?" she whispered. He nodded once, not hesitating. I'm sure of you. Her heart finally gave in softly, quietly, undeniably. She stepped closer. The breeze rustled the leaves behind them. A horn honked distantly. A dog barked on the next block. Life moved on, but between them, time paused. And then Lily smiled, small, trembling, filled with the kind of hope she once thought she'd never feel again. Then, she whispered, "Let's begin again." Ethan exhaled a quiet, broken laugh of relief, one hand coming up to cradle her jaw, as if she were something precious. "Yeah," he asked, voice raw. She nodded, his forehead pressed gently to hers. The world exhaled with them. "Then this," he murmured, "is our new chapter." And when he kissed her there on the hospital steps, sunlight warming their skin, and hope blooming quietly between their joined hands, it wasn't like their first kiss. It wasn't desperate or confused, or born of fear. It was a beginning. Soft, certain, and full of the future she finally dared to believe in. A year passed, not softly, not easily, but with the slow, deliberate rhythm of two people learning how to live without fear again. Spring settled over Manhattan in delicate shades of gold and green. The city felt gentler than Lily remembered. Maybe it was her. Maybe healing had changed the way she saw the world. Or maybe love had. The doctors called her progress remarkable, a word they rarely used. The tumor had continued shrinking. Her strength returned piece by piece, week by week, until the gray around her vision faded and color found her again. She could breathe without pain, laugh without gasping, dream without bargaining. And Ethan stayed through every moment, through the nausea, the trembling hands, the sleepless nights, the fear that sometimes struck without warning. Never with pity, always with steadfastness. She had once thought she would die alone. Instead, she learned how to live with someone beside her, a morning in their new life. Lily woke in the sun-warmed sheets of Ethan's penthouse. Not the cold, lonely space it once was, but a home shaped by both of them. Throw blankets she chose, books he collected, a coffee mug she painted on one impulsive, laughing night, a plant he swore would die in a week, but somehow flourished under sunlight. She blinked, sleepily stretching as the light poured across the bed. Ethan was already awake, sitting against the headboard, laptop balanced on his knee. He wore glasses, something she secretly adored, and his hair fell messily over his forehead. He glanced at her, and the soft smile he gave was one no one else ever saw. "Good morning," he murmured. Her heart still fluttered, even 1 year later. "Working already?" "No," he said, closing the laptop. "Watching you try to wake up." Lily rolled her eyes, nudging his leg with her foot. "Creepy." "Beautiful," he corrected. Heat warmed her cheeks. She still wasn't used to how effortlessly he loved her, how naturally affection poured from him now that he had permission. He set the laptop aside and reached for her hand, kissing her fingers one by one, slow enough to melt every bone in her body. "You have your checkup today," he reminded her quietly. She nodded, stomach twisting with the familiar blend of dread and hope. Even after a year of improvement, hospitals still lived in the edges of her fear. Ethan rubbed circles into her palm with his thumb, sensing her tension. "I'll be there," he whispered. "You always are," she murmured back. The checkup. The hospital no longer felt like a place she would die in. It had become a place where she returned to prove she was still winning. Dr. Chen greeted them with her usual calm professionalism, but even she couldn't quite hide the anticipation in her eyes. They waited for the scan results. Lily tapped her foot. Ethan clasped her hand, grounding her. When the door finally opened again, Dr. Chen held a file and a smile. "Lily," she said, "sitting down, your scans are clear." The world stilled. Clear. Not improved. Not stabilized. Clear. Lily's breath broke. I don't, I don't understand. It means, Dr. Chen said gently, that your body shows no active signs of cancer. We'll continue monitoring you, of course, but today is a victory. Ethan exhaled a sound Lily had never heard from him, half laugh, half sob, pure stunned relief. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. Lily trembled against him, tears running freely. I can live, she whispered, voice cracking. I can really live. Ethan cupped her face, brushing away her tears. His own eyes were bright, shimmering with feelings he didn't bother to restrain. You're here, he breathed. You're staying. She laughed through her tears. Think you can get rid of me now? He didn't answer. He just kissed her soft and slow, full of a year's worth of fear dissolving into gratitude, into a walk into their future. After the appointment, they walked hand in hand through Central Park, absorbing the sunlight as if it belonged to them alone. Lily stopped near a pond, watching the ripples shimmer like fragments of light. Ethan, she asked softly, do you ever think about what comes next? He stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. I think about it every day, he admitted. But I didn't want to push you. Not until you were ready. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. I'm ready now. His breath hitched. For what? For a life, she whispered. With you. A storm of emotion crossed his face. Relief, love, awe. As if he'd been holding his heart in his hands for a year, and she had finally reached for it. He brushed hair from her cheek, searching her eyes. Lily, he whispered, voice unsteady. I want everything with you. The ordinary mornings, the bad days, the good ones, whatever shape our future takes. Her smile trembled. Then take it. He lifted her hand to his chest right over his heartbeat. You have it, he said. You always have. A new chapter. Later they returned to the penthouse, as the sun dipped below the skyline, filling the rooms with soft amber light. Lily curled on the couch in her favorite sweater. His sweater, technically, and Ethan joined her, sliding behind her so she could lean into him. She traced patterns on his forearm. He kissed her temple. This, she realized, was what living felt like. Not the dramatic gestures, not the battles against death, but the quiet moments, the steady ones, the ordinary ones she once feared she'd never have again. Ethan, she said softly. Yes. She tilted her head back to look at him. I love you. He froze. She had said it before once, trembling months ago in a moment of panic and desperation. But she had never said it with certainty, with clarity, with a future behind it. This time it was different. Ethan's eyes softened in a way that hollowed her knees, even though she was sitting. He cupped her cheeks, voice barely a breath. Lily, I've loved you every day I've known you, even the days I didn't understand it yet. Her heart thudded. He kissed her slowly. No urgency, no hunger, just devotion, just promise. When they broke apart, Lily rested her forehead against his. So, she whispered, shy and bright, all at once. What now? Ethan smiled, a rare, unguarded smile that made her chest warm. Now, he said, we begin. A final scene. A year earlier, Lily had expected to die. Now she stood on the rooftop terrace of the penthouse, wrapped in Ethan's arms, watching the city lights flicker like constellations at their feet. The night was cool, a gentle breeze brushing her hair. Ethan rested his forehead against hers. You're really here, he whispered, as if saying it aloud made it real. I'm not going anywhere, she said, and she meant it. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running. Not from illness, not from fear, not from love. Ethan pulled her closer, his arms warm around her. Then let's build something. A home, a life. a future. She nodded, tears welling not from pain, but from overwhelming, uncontainable joy. Together, she whispered. Together, he echoed. And as the night deepened around them, as the city pulsed below, as hope filled every quiet breath, they stepped into the life they once thought they'd never have. A life earned, a life fought for, a life chosen, a life full of love, a new beginning.